Hello, fellow book lovers, both readers and writers. I am Maddie Dalrymple. I'm the author of the Ann Kinnear suspense novels and suspense shorts and the Lizzie Ballard thrillers. And I also write, speak, consult, and podcast on the writing craft and the publishing voyage as the indie author. And this is my video series, What I Learned, where I ask authors two questions related to their latest book. What did they learn from their latest book that they'd like to share with their fellow authors? And what did they learn from their latest book that they'd like to share with their fellow readers? And today I am here with Debbi Mack. Hey, Debbie, how are you doing?
Great, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it is my pleasure. To give our viewers a little bit of background on you, Debbi Mack is the New York Times bestselling author of the Sam McRae Mystery Series featuring Maryland lawyer-sleuth Stephanie Ann Sam McRae. The first book in her second mystery series, which features a female marine sleuth, earned a Shamus Award nomination. She's the author of the YA novel Invisible Me, the thriller The PLANCK FACTOR, screenplays and short stories, one of which was a Derringer Award nominee. Debbi is also the host and producer of the Crime Cafe podcast, and she lives in Columbia, Maryland with her husband and her cats. And so today I am asking Debbi the two What I Learned questions about Fatal Connections, which is her latest book, starting with what did you learn from Fatal Connections that you would like to share with your fellow authors?
Well, with my fellow authors, I will say this. If you're a plotter, don't be afraid to improvise. If you're a pantser, don't be afraid to plan a little. You can do a hybrid, really. You don't have to be one or the other. I mean, I was a diehard plotter for the longest time. I'm going to throw this in and see what happens. It's kind of like experimenting with a recipe or something. It's just like, yeah, okay, I can deviate off onto this path for a bit. That's not going to hurt anything. It's going to only help. What I've discovered is I learn so much as I'm writing about my character that even though you start off building a world before you write, your world really isn't complete until you get to know your character through writing it. And I don't know how else to describe it except to say that it's a product of inspiration and comes deeply from within you. So things like the market, things like, oh, what's trending, what's popular, I pay no attention, almost no attention, I should say. It's not something that, it's not like I don't pay attention. I see what's out there selling, but the point is, I know what I want to write, and I know the kind of book I want to see in the world. And I guess that's what I'm really getting at. Your intention as a writer. Think about that as you're writing. What do you want to see out there in the world?
Yeah, well, I think it is sort of unfortunate. A lot of times people pose the plotter pantser thing as like an
like
either
it's a
or.
dichotomy,
Yeah.
it's not. There's
Yeah.
a middle ground.
Yeah, and I think people sort of move back and forth in the course of doing a novel. Like I would never want to read a book that was entirely plotted out ahead of time and never deviated, and I would want to read a book that was just pants the whole way through and never, never refined. So yeah, I like that idea that everybody's bringing to bear different skills there.
Otherwise, you turn into kind of a human AI.
Yeah. Yeah,
Kind of,
exactly. I think that that's a great point that it's the if you're just absorbing a bunch of stuff and then spitting out what you think is like the market winner, that kind of ties into your other comment that the dangers of writing to market. And um how about writing to readers? Do you consider that different? Like when you get input from your readers, do you factor that into your books at all?
well, I always like to hear back from readers. And if for some reason something wasn't working, I don't hear it. I'm not hearing that. If somebody just says, I don't like all these curse words, they're just going to have to read somebody else, because I'm dealing in my stories oftentimes with people who simply talk this way. And, stuff like that. I mean, as far as what I'm going to tell readers, I'm really more interested in giving them a good experience as well as whatever insight I have to offer into the human condition. And right now I'm dealing, one of the things I've learned is that the marine community is a very tight-knit and not insular, but But it does have its own culture, very much its own culture. It's distinct from soldiers. They don't consider themselves soldiers. They are Marines. And that's a very important distinction. And that's something that I learned early on that I had not known. And it's like I had so much learning to do before I could write these books that I just hope that readers appreciate how much effort writers put into their work. Because I have spoken to many authors on the Crime Cafe and been so impressed with the things that they tell me they do to research their books that I am just like gobsmacked. I'm just like, wow, I feel like such an amateur by comparison. But I mean, this career it's more than just a way to make money. It's a calling in a sense. It's like a thing you do because you can't imagine doing anything else. So although I have imagined doing other things, in fact, am doing other things, the screenwriting, I'm doing screenwriting as well as podcasting and novel writing and whatever else I can do in my increasingly rare spare time.
Is the screenplay something that you're adapting from a novel, or is it completely new?
Well, I've done both. I did an original screenplay back in 2009 through with an online screenwriting course. And it was very helpful, obviously, because I made a few changes and I submitted it to Scriptapalooza years later. This was in 2012, I guess, or 2011. I don't remember. I think it was 2012. And it made the quarterfinals in Scriptapalooza.
Nice.
And I was just flabbergasted. And I blogged about it. There was a blogger named Scott Clevenger, who is a script doctor out in LA and lived in Hollywood, literally in Hollywood. And I got to know this blogger just through blogging. It was a complete accident, one of those weird accidents. And he said in a comment, you should feel very proud. And I've always been interested in movies and screenwriting and television also. And it's just like all of that. It was like, I never really seriously thought about it. And yet here I had taken this course. And also, I have to say, there was an author I used to do promotions with back in the day when I first started self-publishing. He was with Hollywood for a while. He was with the business. He did costume design for horror movies, that kind of thing. Actually, like makeup and grotesque masks and stuff like that. Anyway, he was into horror and he was doing these short books that were supposed to read in the time that it would take for you to watch a movie. And he told me after he read my first novel, he said, I see a screenwriter in you screaming to come out. And this was before I even submitted to the contest. And I thought, well, maybe I should go ahead and just do it. So now I'm writing screenplays as well as working on my third novel in the Erica Jensen series. This is the latest book. Damaged Goods was the first. And I was just thrilled when I heard that it was being nominated for Shamus. I was just like, oh my God, whoa. I was just astonished and just so gratified, I guess. What can I say? You like me.
Well, I think it's very interesting. I mean, this might be a good sort of segue into the conversation about what you learned that you'd like to share with fellow readers, because I think one thing that readers might not realize is these insights that you're sharing about the creative process and the idea that switching to another format, like adding screenplays as well as novels, is not something that maybe seem crystal clear to you. Like, I think that sometimes readers think, oh, this must have just like come to the creator fully formed, but that idea that it's something you dip your toe into, but then it was the encouragement you got that made you continue to pursue that.
Yes, very much. And it was very important to simply getting into publishing at all, actually. I mean, my father had always been, he's deceased now, he had always been super supportive of the idea of my having a writing career. and writing novels, because I always said I wanted to write a novel, and he was super supportive. And I mean, that's number one. Number two, I met an author who had published numerous novels, who read my work and said, I think this is publishable. I was like, you're kidding, right? Really? Really? He's like, yeah, it kept me reading all the way through. And ironically, it ended up becoming the fourth book in my series. But
Interesting.
yeah, it just worked out that way. I was like working on a sequel to what I thought was the first book, but then I turned the sequel into the first book. So no, it was not fully formed. It was a thing that kind of developed over time. And I said, if I'm going to do it, I better do it now, because I'm not getting any younger. That's the thing that keeps driving me. It's like, you're not getting any younger, so do it now.
Yeah, I think a
That's why
lot of
I'm
people
always,
who say they have a book in and then never get to it because it's the thing that keeps getting put off.
if you just sit down, designate some time, I don't care how long, a half hour, 15 minutes, write whatever you can, even if it's only a paragraph. Just start and keep going. That's all. And I mean, if you don't feel like, don't start at the beginning of the story if you can't start there. Start with whatever scene comes to you in your head that you want to write about, and then say, okay, how does this story begin? Where did this backtrack from there and figure out what's going on? I don't know. I mean, I just think that there are so many ways. And read lots of books, because I have learned so much from reading Raymond Chandler, Ross McDonald, Sue Grafton, Sarah Paretsky. I'm just like naming biggies off the top of my head here. There's another one I've just got to name, Judith Van Giesen. Totally love her Neil Hamill series. Oh my gosh. I mean, she was so inspiring. Walter Mosley, that's the one I cannot skip, because totally, I read his work. I was like, I want to write like this guy. Oh, and he's just such a wonderful person. I've met him, and he's such a nice guy. Really, I mean that.
Yeah, I think that idea that one looks for inspiration and support not only
Mm-hmm.
from the readers but also from one's fellow writers, and
Oh, for
I think
sure.
that's sometimes something that readers don't fully appreciate, that there's a whole support structure behind a
Yeah.
successful author.
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole community. And really, one of the things they say in screenwriting is it's a business of relationships. So is publishing. Publishing and writing, this is a business of relationships. And the more people you know, the better off you are. And just go out there and be your best self. I think that's the best way any person can act anywhere, you know?
Well, I think that you've done a nice job of introducing your work to what will hopefully be a new community of readers for your works, including Fatal Connection. So, Debbie, thanks so much for chatting about the lessons you learned. Please let everyone know where they
Sure.
can go to find out more about you and your books and everything you do online.
Well, you can go to my website, which is debbimack.com, DEBBIMACK.com. I'm on Instagram. I'm on YouTube, of course. I have like 3 YouTube channels. It's ridiculous. I've got my regular YouTube channel where I post like things like status updates about my life or whatever, as well as book reviews. Lots of book reviews. I put up lots of book reviews now. Um, Also, I'm on Substack and Patreon.
And people get to those sites through your website.
Yes, you can
Okay.
certainly find my Patreon is there. I think my Substack is there. It's there somewhere, trust me. Go to the website, it's there.
That's good. I think you've provided like the central place people can go to find out more about you and your work.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's probably enough for now.
Well, Debbie, thank you so much. It was so nice talking to you.
It was nice talking to you too. I can't wait to see you at the conference.
Yeah, me too. And that's
Yeah.
Creatures, Crimes, and Creativity for anyone who's listening to this.
Yeah, come out to Maryland and join us.
Yeah, would love to. It would be lovely to see some of this community of crime aficionados there as well.
Yep, that'd be wonderful.